Big Z Reviews. Hi, my name is Zarzyczny, but you can call me Big Z. And today I'm going to be talking about the book of Dr. Sleep and what they changed for the movie. And I found that it's kind of interesting because I did my review for Dr. Sleep, and I had previously rewatched and reread all the versions of The Shining and did a video about that. But then after watching this, I read Doctor Sleep, but I'd never gotten around to reading it previously. And then I watched the movie again this past weekend, and I have some thoughts. So stay tuned if you want to see them. Although I will say this is going to be full spoilers for the book and the movie, but that's kind of what I'm discussing. So to start out, to be clear, Doctor Sleep the movie is a sequel to the movie of The Shining. And as a sequel to the movie The Shining, there's stuff in the book of Doctor Sleep that just wouldn't work. You had to change if you wanted to make a sequel to the movie Shining. And because, they're different. The book and the movie of The Shining are very different in parts. I think one of the key differences is that some of the main important differences is that Dick Halloran is killed in the movie. In the book, he kind of has his head, cracked, and he loses most of his teeth from the mallet breaking his jaw, but he survives. And in the same way, in the book, Jack Torrance, he kind of is able to turn. He's able to fight his demons and fight the hotel, and he's able to kind of it's already Danny kind of helping them, but know that they forgot about the boiler, and the boiler explodes and the Overlook Hotel explodes. In the movie, he dies in the maze. He freezes to death. So, the Overlook Hotel is still there for the movie. So, and I think that the climax in the movie Doctor Sleep is amazing. I loved it. But there's no way for the book to have done anything like it, because the Overlook Hotel isn't there. So, it's an interesting dilemma, but I think the biggest change, though, and again, I think it matches the film, is that in the book, no one dies except for the evil people, and the couple of the kids that they eat. None of the main characters die, and it's in the movie they all die except for Abra. In the movie, her dad dies. Doc, Danny Torrance, he dies. His best friend dies. There's a lot of people that die in the movie, and I think that is more like the Shining film, though, because Dick Halloran's he travels all that way just to get chopped with an axe and killed. So, but in the book, in the first book, no one died either except for Jack Torrance, and I think that the two endings, I like both the book endings and the movie endings, but I think the book ending I like a little more, just because. And then the biggest difference, is Dan survives in the book. In the movie, he dies, and in the book, it's very, very different because things happen differently. In the movie, there's only not even a dozen of the true knot. In the book, there's multiple dozens of these vampires. So when in the book, they have, when they come after Abra, they have 3 or 4 people, and while in the movie, it's all of them except for Rose the Hat, and they kill the whole true knot except for Rose the Hat. But while in the book, they have to deal with all of these other vampires. So there's some great stuff, and there's stuff that they completely left out of the movie. But it's interesting, though, because at a certain point in the movie, Abra calls Danny Uncle Danny, and he is actually her uncle. Because, I mean, the dad, Jack Torrance, back when he was getting drunk, he impregnated his student teacher out partying one night. And then, she died in a car accident, drunk driving, and the grandmother raised Abra's mother. And there's a lot more with Abra as a young child, like in the book, because you get to know her more. And I understand why you can't do that, because the movie can only be so long. But I liked a lot of what they did, and they you see that the director he had a lot to do to kind of mix things up and get a film out of it, and I liked what he did. But I think that the biggest thing I'm missing is for the end of the book, it's something about it is so satisfying because it's kind of about recovery. Danny is able to recover, and by killing him, he's not able to recover. And I think too, like there's in the movie there's a scene you get stuff from everything from the book. A lot of it is still in it, like especially like kind of in his lowest point is when he takes some money from the woman that he had slept with and got drunk with the previous night, and he used all his money to buy coke. But like in the book, there's a lot more to it because like there's more with the thing actually happens. The reason he buys all the coke instead of just a little bit was that he sees death flies on the character's face, and he just wants to ignore it. He wants to try to get rid of the shining as much as he can. But he like that is his lowest moment. Like even Stephen King talks about it, that a lot of times in the AA, these people have this bottom of the barrel moment that gets them to change their ways. And the movie shows that, and they even show that scene like the mom and the baby are dead, but they skip some stuff that I think is important because in the book a lot of The Shining there also is some precognition, and essentially he gets some stuff warning him about Rose the Hat, like he sees the top hat flown down the street, and then he sees these the woman and her baby. Essentially he knows that he could have done something, and he knows that the woman's brother killed the baby by beating it, and then she killed herself in a tub, and then now she says I don't blame you, and by telling you beware of Rose the Hat, don't mess with her, essentially. But that is his lowest moment. And it's so interesting. A lot of stuff, there's a lot more in the book about recovery, about going to AA meetings. And there's a lot more of that. And it's interesting, but I understand why you can't really do that in a movie. But, that's like, he tells everything that he's ever done. Like, he talks about everything. Even the couple times he talks about what happened in The Shining, in the Overlook Hotel. But he never tells anyone about him taken the money from this baby, from this mom and her baby, and leave him. All he did, he put the cocaine up higher so the baby couldn't reach it and overdose on it. But like he thought it was candy, and that's his lowest moment. He won't tell anyone about it. And then like Rose the Hat kind of uses that when he gets in his mind, and she tries to get him to kill Abra. And there's a lot of interesting stuff there. But the movie does a little bit more, but again, more like what The Shining did. It's not as much of what this did. And the idea is that he survives, dealing with Rose the Hat. But then after that he goes, his 12th anniversary or something, his 15th anniversary or being clean, something like a really big one. And he finally tells the story, and it's so interesting. It's so well written, where he is he's finally telling this biggest thing in his life. He hasn't told anyone, and he tells this whole room of other people. And when he sees it, everyone thinks, "Oh, I bet this is gonna be crazy." And he says it, and everyone's like, I've done worse." And then it's he's surprised that that meant so much to me. I told it them, and they didn't think it was anything. They didn't think it was that bad. And it's such an interesting idea, and it kind of bookends it has the great bookends to it, the story. And also, there's great stuff with Abra is now grown up more, and she's becoming more of a teenager, and dealing with the parents, and both parents are alive now. But he like tells him that next time you want to get your energy out, go to the dump and just throw things around with your mind. And I thought it's really fun. And I really like, but at the same time, I like the movie book ends it by having her having to lock away the woman from 237 back into her own mental box. And I like how that book ends it too. Like, I don't dislike what the movie did. Like, it's so interesting that normally you would get really frustrated at a movie for doing something, but I completely understand everything that it does, and I like what it does. It's just different. It's very interesting. I think the other big thing they don't really talk about, like, there is a lot more Doctor sleeping in the book, and it's interesting because, like, in the movie they show him, like, when he sees the steam come out of their mouths, and it looks like the steam that the vampires eat. But in the book, it's redder, and it's like full of their disease, and full of a lifetime, and that's why, like, when they do it, it's like purified, and why they like it like that. But that's important because the stuff with Abra's grandmother, and essentially, you spend a lot more time with her. It's kind of like an afterthought. That's why the mom's not there in the movie, but in the book, that she's dying of pancreatic cancer. And I like her character. Her character is really interesting. Like, she's a poet, but he goes to her and he helps her pass on, but he does something, and that's one thing I don't like though. I hate it when books you're following a character throughout the whole book, and then so there's some sort of plot twist, and the author doesn't want you to know about it, so it happens off page, and I understand why you do it. But it's kind of annoying, because then for the rest of it, it's like he's acting like he has stomach cancer, or he has some sort of cancer, and it's like, well, wouldn't he have felt something before this? I don't understand. Like, it was confusing. But essentially, he created one of those mental boxes with his shining, but he put in it Abra's grandmother's sickness. And then he let it build and build and build, and he went to, like, the hall. Essentially, it's funny in the book, all of the True Knot, the vampires, one of their main bases is where the Overlook Hotel was. But, like, all of them, he and Abra convinced them to meet him, like, to meet her at, like, where the Overlook Hotel stood. But then everyone else stays in this building, like a clubhouse sort of building, and he goes in and he breathes out the red mist full of cancer, and it kills all of the True Knot, and it's sad, like, it's really cool visualizing it. It's written really well, and I think something like that could have been cool to do in the film, but again, it's still tied up around there not being an Overlook Hotel and them not knowing about it, like, so it doesn't really work to do it in the film. But, like, it is cool though in the book. I really like that. The only thing, the rest of the climax of the book is kind of a little bit lackluster, just because, like, she's standing up on, like, this platform they built where the Overlook Hotel was, and, like, they're below, and, like, they kind of mentally fight, and then essentially they a ghost of his father helps by giving her a little push, and they push Rosa Hat off the building and to fall down and die. Like, it definitely, in the movie, the climax is a lot more epic, but I like both of them. It's tough to really say what you like more. I appreciate what he changed, and I understand, even though I like a lot of what the book did more. Maybe it's very interesting to think about. Still, as a book, I think The Shining is definitely better. You can see it's very different. The Shining was written by a young man that is kind of an alcoholic, and that Dr. Sleep was written by an old man who is clean, and that's looking back at it and think that you can change. Like, it's a very different tone to it. Because the idea that in the first one you can't change. Instead, you have to kill yourself to prevent you from hurting your loved ones. And in this one, he's not like that. He's thinking, you can change. I change. You can do it. So my character can do it, and he can be redeemed. He can be the best version of himself, and he doesn't have to die. Like, so it's very different from the theme of the movie. And I think the theme of Doctor Sleep, the movie, kind of kept with the theme of the original book and especially the movie of The Shining. And I completely understand why they did it. But still, I wouldn't, I kind of like him not dying in the book. Like, I mean, I don't know if he needed to die in the movie. I understand why they did it, but I don't know if they needed to do it like that. You could probably say the book is a little long, a little overly long, a lot of detail, a lot of stuff, a lot of backstory about all these characters, but I really liked knowing more about them. And in the movie, I like that a lot of stuff you could say could have happened off screen. Like, a lot of stuff could still work. So it's interesting to think like that. But I mean, like I said, I would recommend both the book of Doctor Sleep and the movie of Doctor Sleep. I really enjoyed the book. I'd probably give like an 8.75 out of 10. And the movie like a 9.5 out of 10. I think I like the movie more, but I like a lot of things the book did maybe slightly more. It's very interesting. I mean, it's not one of those cases where the book was better. It's not one of those cases, but its book was different. And it's very interesting to compare them. But thanks for watching. Share their place on my head. And guys, you can see over there. Thanks. This has been the Big Z Book Review. Thanks for watching.